I will tell you everything about how to create a podcast in Kartra. So that is like a one-off email that you want to send to a specific audience inside of Kartra, and it's yeah, you can really choose like who you want to send it to, when, things like that. So that's a good way how to send out like newsletters, for example, or to like schedule things in advance for like a specific target audience. So first you put in the name of the podcast here. As you can see, it's for your reference only. So what I personally like to do is that I include the date in here, because then I can easily see when I go to a client's profile what kind of emails they received. I can see, oh, they got the email that we sent. Especially if you send like lots of emails, it can be easier to track, and then of course have like a name of the email over here as well. That makes it easy for you to be like, oh, that was this email. Or you can include something that is not really like the subject line of the email, but it's more the content of the email, so it's easy for you to say this was that one. Then you can also choose the category if you want to like categorize your emails based on offer or based on the audience that you want to send it out. So you can just choose it from this drop down over here, or you can quickly just create the new category if you want to add one once you're already in the process of creating a new broadcast. And then you just click create and go to the next field, or the next option to choose if you send out an email or an SMS. I am not going to cover how to send text messages through Kartra in that video, so we will only focus on sending out an email for now. So you choose the communication gateway as send by email, and then you can also see the gateway, your name. If you want to adjust that, if you first signed up with Kartra Mail and you made it like first name, last name, but you don't really want to use like your last name, or just don't want to be so formal, or you can add like another thing here like coach Trina, something like that. You can definitely do that. So you can also always go to integrations and to Kartra Mail and update that, so you don't need to do that every time manually. And you always want to make sure that your reply to email is also your email, not like the Kartra email that they sometimes put in here by default. And that is also like if you did it kind of like wrong in the integrations, because it's not an actual email. So if you have the Kartra email here, your clients can respond to it, but you will never actually receive the email. So just like when you do it the first time, just make sure that this is done correctly. Then you just confirm your choices, and then you can choose who you're going to send out the email to. So you have a lot of options here to like really customize to who you want to send it out to. So I would never recommend to choose everyone in my database regardless of their status, because they can be people who marked you as spam, said they no longer want to get emails, things like that. So you also get like a small warning message if you actually pick that. So you can choose like subscribe to list, and then you can also choose that you want to send it out to like any list that you have. So it still essentially like includes everyone, but not the people who have unsubscribed. And then you can also see if you want to like ignore GDPR and CCPA. As it says, it's not recommended. So I would only tick this box to ignore it if you're going to send out any email that is related to an offer that the clients purchased, and they absolutely need this information that you're sending out. If it's anything that is promotional or commercial newsletter, then don't tick this box, because those people who didn't tick that don't want to get emails from you. And I will also show you how you can see like how many people have made this choice from the selection that you have. First of all, what I want to say is that you can also add two things. So you can add they are part of this and, or they're part of this or. So you can add more categories here to make it super specific. So you can see the 10 people are blocked. So those are people who didn't want to get like commercial emails. So if I ignore that, you can see that the total will be 23. If I don't do that, you can see that the total is 13. So you can easily see how many emails or how many recipients there will be. Then you will choose if you want to send out the single email or do A/B split testing. I would only do that if you have more than like 1,000 subscribers, so you can really get some good data and your sample size is good enough as well. And then I would only make a very small tweak, whether that's a different subject line or something very small that you're changing in the email. So it's easy for you to say, this is the reason why this email had a higher open rate or a click rate. So first, I'm going to tell you everything about this text option here, and then I will be talking about the rich HTML. So the text email is basically very simple email as it would be in any other like platform that you're sending emails out to. So here you will put the subject of the email, and then here you can put the preview text if you want to include anything over there. And here you would put the body of the text. So you can also say hi and then choose this bracket of first name from here. Even though now I remember by heart exactly how to type that out, I always copy paste that to avoid any typos, because you don't want to send out an email that says hi first name to anyone. And you can see what are some of the other things that Kartra can pull from the client's profile to make it more customized, but in most cases I think you only want to use first name when it comes to broadcasts. And then you can also do all of the formatting here. You can add emojis, so you have all of those options. Then the rich HTML is a little bit more dynamic. It looks a little bit more visual. So you can also see some full templates if you need some inspiration of how to create your emails, but you can also start from scratch. Then you just need to drag and drop any of those options that you want to include. So first I would also choose the background color and the canvas, so you can play around with that, and then you can see exactly how that would look like. So typically what I do is that I either choose a color for either only the canvas or only the background, to not make it like super crazy colorful, but of course you can do whatever you prefer. And then you can also always see like how this will look like, and then you can just drag in any content. So for example, if you want to add a little bit of like text here to put some information in, and then you can also add images, you can add buttons. So you will see all of those options over here, and exactly like what the options are as well. So for if you want any tick boxes, things like that, 2 columns, 3 columns of text, you can do that. If you want to write poems or whatever you want to do. And then you can also choose images, this full width, so it will cover the whole screen, or you can choose this one, then you can adjust the width of the image over here. So you can just click on this orange button always to change the actual information, whether it's like the image or the text. And then if you click on this green button over there, then you can just move like or change around the general settings. So this is how you can make the image smaller or bigger, for example. And here you can also select image and then upload that. So once I put all of my like input here in the email, then I typically in the very first time you do that, and if you know that I always want to add an image or I want to add like a button so they can click on something, then I typically come here and I change the padding a little bit. So if this is the very first section, it can also stay as 30, but you can put it at 20, for example. And then this increase usually to like 10, or if it's a button, I even put it to 5, so it's like really close, because otherwise this gap over here is quite big, especially on the mobile view. So when you have like a template that you know that you're not going to use, so you want to have an image of your offer, for example, and then you want to have some text, then I would definitely also like save that as a template so you can use that next time and you no longer need to adjust the padding, for example. So now when you're happy with your email, I always recommend to just send yourself a test email, especially if you have buttons in there or if you have like the name in there. And also if you ever create something in here in the text version and then you're like, oh, I actually want to include that in the rich HTML, you can always just copy paste it, go here, the subject line will anyway transfer over, but then you can just come here and just paste that in here as well, so you don't need to start from scratch. And then I typically send myself a test email to just see how things look like, especially as I said, if there are buttons in there, so I can make sure everything works exactly how I want it to. And even though you can see kind of the preview of how things look like, it still looks sometimes slightly different on your desktop or on your phone. So that's something that I do to make sure that it looks exactly how I want it to look like. And then when you're happy with it, then you can just save and next to continue. And then you can set up some automation. So here you can, for example, choose that if someone didn't open the email or if they didn't click on the email, then you can maybe send them a follow-up email, or you can do some action after that as well. So that's always an option that you can choose, but I wouldn't send that every time unless it's like something very important or having a proper campaign. Then I wouldn't always send a follow-up email to people who didn't open an email, because then you're essentially sending 2 emails to the people who are kind of like your coldest leads in your email list, if that makes sense. And then you can choose if you send it out right away, if you schedule it for later, or save as a draft. So if you feel like I'm almost there, but maybe I want to tweak some things, or I don't really know when exactly I want to send it out, then that's a good option. But you can also schedule it out for later. So you can choose the date and a time. The time is always the same time as your personal time zone that you chose yourself through your profile in Kartra. And you can always go back and still edit that from the broadcast like view before it's actually being sent out. So that's also something that you can do. So yeah, I didn't choose the time, but basically if you go here to broadcast, then you will also see what are still the emails that haven't been sent out that have been scheduled. So if you ever feel like, oh, I actually want to adjust that, you can still do that here as well. And then you will always see like what are all of the broadcasts that you've sent out in the past, and you can also clone them if you feel like, oh, I want to like create another masterclass, for example. Then you can just clone that and adjust a few things so it's a bit easier for you to get started. So I hope that was helpful.